Hello all, I am here to make a video about STEMscopes. I'm in a grad program right now, and one of the assignments, it's for educational leadership, so one of the assignments is to help with curriculum and make a video, and I spoke with Mr. Gideon and he thought discussing STEMscopes would be the most helpful. So I'm going to do a little bit of a combination of kind of reviewing some of the things from our training this summer, looking at some of the curriculum documents, and then also giving my own 2 cents about how Mrs. Vanden and I have incorporated it. And I say Mrs. Vanden because she has been doing it a lot longer than I have after maternity leave. So we're going to get started with this one. Obviously, I'm using 4th grade, but hopefully it will be helpful regardless of what grade it is. I'm just most familiar with the 4th grade at this point in time. So for the first thing I want to talk about is this planning linked guide. So I was actually on the committee that helped link all of these documents for the different grade levels this summer. And you'll notice, if you haven't looked at this already, the green part is the open, the close, and the must do. So those are those items in the district that the district is saying these are the really important things. So you'll see that the daily numeracy is every day. That hook, the pre-explore, is a must-do, the explorers, and then fact fluency, which will be starting very, very soon. You'll also see the show what you know and the exit tickets. So those are the key components that must be completed. Some of the other items within STEMscopes, you'll see STEMscopes have so much to offer, and you're not going to be able to get to it all. But as long as you are hitting those key green components, then you will be doing good. So the main purpose of these documents, yes, you can find them all in STEMscopes, but this is to just give you a one-stop shop. And it's also just a reminder about what are the key points. You'll notice, if you haven't noticed already, that it is color-coded for you so that you know, okay, anything that is pink is under the Engage tab located in STEMscopes. The Explore tab is in orange. Some of them are both orange and yellow, so like right here, because the Explore is in the Explore tab, that Show What You Know is that Explain tab. So that is a little bit about the guiding document for that. I do want to go to STEMscopes and show you just a few things. Some of this is stuff that was covered in the training, but it's been a few weeks since we had that training, so I just want to remind you in case you've forgotten. So when you go to Scopes, you can save the filter. So you'll see that I have a 4th grade filter. I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I'm going to move my little happy bubble. That's just to prove that it is me speaking. So I'm going to set a filter. I hit math. I'm going to select my grade. Maybe I want 3rd grade math. And you can hit save filter and title it. And you can click this set as a default filter. So that will allow you, when you open it up, just like you saw, mine goes automatically to 4th grade math. You can do the same for science. And then when you need to go in between, you can switch here. So you'll see I also have a 5th grade math filter, which I'll talk about in just a moment as to why I want that. So moving right along, I am going to go back to my filter if it'll let me. I'm just going to do it the long way. Sometimes I've found with the filter, if you exit out of the filter, then you kind of have to log back into the program. So I do want to talk about the teacher toolbox. So actually, I'm going to clear that filter one more time. So if you go to curriculum area math, the teacher toolbox. So this is something that they showed us this summer. I want to talk about it really quickly, specifically that when you go here in the essentials section, the black line masters is something that stood out to me this summer because it gives you all of these documents that you can print off and laminate as practice papers for your kiddos. So something I've been thinking about doing, I have not had a chance to do it yet, is printing blackline masters, putting them on a little, laminating them, cutting them out, all of the jazz, and then putting them on a binder clip, or a little, those little metal circle clips, and hooking them to the desk so that students all have access to them should they need them. In that teacher toolbox, you'll also see all kinds of the scopes and the vertical alignment charts and all of that good information, which is also located in other places. So I'll remind you about that very soon. I do want to go back to my scopes, to my 4th grade math. You'll see it already went back straight to it. I'm going to go into daily numeracy now. The daily numeracy folder is linked in our curriculum folders, but if you go straight to daily numeracy within STEMscopes, just something I want to point out is that teacher toolbox does have the hand signal posters. It has sentence stems, and I like these because these you can print out and you can put them on the desk. I recommend using contact paper. You could even print them to a page, so that it would take up less space on the desk, and then just get some contact paper from Walmart, and that's a great way to have it right there for all students to access. And then that teacher toolbox in the daily numeracy also has the standards by activity. So if you'll remember from the this guiding document, that daily numeracy we're supposed to be doing every single day. I'll show you in just a bit how I do it. But the standards by activity document kind of shows you the purpose behind why we're doing each of the different activities that they offer. Moving right along, I'm trying to be as quick as I can, but also kind of hitting all the main points. Okay, I'm going to go to comparing fractions, which is what 4th grade is currently working on, and I want to kind of hit through a few good things. So that home section, I know I saw a 3rd grade parent letter on the printer just recently, but I do want to remind you that under the home section is the parent letter. I really recommend downloading this and sending it out through Talking Points or Class Dojo. Once you have it downloaded, you'll see it's not only the letter, but it also offers a tic-tac-toe board. I personally told my kiddos that they could do that and turn it in for extra credit on an assignment. So that parent letter is something that Mr. Gideon also wanted me to specifically remind you about, because it really updates parents about what they're learning about and keeps them up to date, and also gives, for those parents who are like, hey, I want extra practice at home, send them that parent letter. It gives them a whole choice board, a whole tic-tac-toe board, I guess I should say, of activities they can work on. Other things in that section, if you want to go get your vocabulary words for the section, I know on the Canvas page there is a box for vocabulary words. That's going to be located under content support. So there's all kinds of valuable information, but specifically there's your terms to know. You could snip that and put it right into Canvas. It also has your TEKS Unwrapped. So this is where it's going to dissect it, talk more about some of the verbs and those nouns within the TEK, and then it talks about those common misconceptions. I also love how it gives you that vertical alignment, and it specifically focuses on the grade below. So what are they coming into you? They should already know that knowledge. And then one other thing I wanted to point out, I personally do not use this, but it could be helpful to those that follow the Explore activities exactly as they're outlined. So remember that you can go in and adjust these values, and then it will adjust how many items you need for each activity, so that you don't have to think, oh, how many of these do I need? It'll do that for you. Going to the Engage tab. So when I'm starting any unit, I always do that hook because it is a required piece. The accessing prior knowledge, I spoke with Miss Depp, and she said that those activities are usually really good. And then the foundation builder. Typically, when I do it, I don't print a whole copy. I'll either project it on the board. My students did have trouble seeing those activities when I projected it on the board. So typically, I'll make one copy per group, depending on the activity. And then it's less paper and they can all see it at their group. But for sure hit the hook. Remember, the hook are those short little videos. You have them see, you watch the video and you say, okay, how do you see math in this video? And then there's a post hook that you go back to after you've done all of the explores. Specifically on the accessing prior knowledge and those foundation builders, I would recommend, if you want to do those in small group, that might be a good option for you to do during wind time. Then the explore. So what Ms. Vanden and I have found, really Ms. Vanden, and a lot of you, after speaking with Ms. Depp, have said that 2 days per explore is really what you need. So when we're doing those explores, I would recommend doing 2 explores, and something Miss Vanden and I are going to be rolling out. She already has. I'm currently in the process of rolling it out, is that we do our explores actually in a small group. And we do that by doing stations. So I'll talk more about this later, but I do want to kind of show you an example. This is from Miss Vanden, and I give her complete credit. So she has her groups. She assigns students into groups. She does it homogeneous groups, so based on ability level. And then there are other times in her class when they're heterogeneous groups. But for this, she does a low group, a high group, a medium group, and a medium low group, and medium high group. And then each group has their own little station list that they follow. So she meets with 2 groups per day. And while she's meeting with those 2 groups, then the other kids are doing their at their seat work. And we're going to talk more about that in just a bit. But that's one way that you can do the explores. I've heard other teachers doing them whole group. At least in 4th grade, we found that was difficult because of, one, how low our specific grade level is in math, and 2, we found ourselves constantly running around the room and never fully finding time to truly support each group like they needed. So that's why we broke it up into small groups, and the other kids work at stations while we pull our small group. And we do 2 small groups per day is the goal. So the explain tab is where we get that show what you know. So after Miss Vanden and I meet with our small group for the day, then their immediate station after the teacher table is the show what you know activity. So STEMscopes is great in that it provides a lot of handout. It gives you the handout, it gives you the answer keys, it gives you the editable Google files, which is all great and dandy. Something Miss Vanden and I have talked a lot about is that when we don't have the paper copy, we are less likely to give immediate feedback. So I know for myself, I'm very guilty. If someone turns something in online, I'm going to check it eventually, but it's not going to be immediate. And what a lot of our kids need is right then and there, they need to know. Because once it's a few days old, they don't probably care as much. But when I can tell you, oh, that is not correct right then and there, that's how they're going to learn the most. So right after they do the teacher table, they are doing the show what you know, and they can come up to us periodically to get it checked, and we can circle and say, oh, go fix that, go fix that. That has worked for us. Something else, in case, I'm sure a lot of you know about this, but just in case you haven't, Mrs. Saucedo showed this to me last year. It is easel by Teachers Pay Teachers. So you can upload the documents in here. So I'll just click on one that I've uploaded already. You can upload the activity. I'm going to view it as a student so that you can see. Sorry, it's being a little bit slow. And here it makes it very similar to what the lower grades have in Seesaw, where the kids can write on it, they can type on it, and that's one way to save paper. We do this for those activities. So for the Explore sheets, where I'm not going to take a grade on the Explore because that's that's their way to explore the topic. They haven't mastered the skill yet, so I always do this on easel for them. Moving on, our Elaborate tab. So here's a tab that can be a little overwhelming. So there are all kinds of activities. Something that we have found helpful is we pick 2 or 3 to focus on in our stations. So in our stations, we do a teacher table, we do the show what you know, and then we usually pick 2 of these. The interactive practice is like a game, so we embed that into Canvas, and that is super helpful. The spiraled review is not specific to that TEAC of whatever topic you're on. It is just what it says it is, a spiraled review of other skills. So we have liked those too. And then as the days go on and as we do other Explore activities, we start incorporating those fluency builders. And we have talked with Ms. Depp, and sometimes we'll say, hey, Ms. Depp, can you print these fluency builders? And she'll print them on cardstock for you. Evaluate those star-based assessments. Y'all know not to touch those because those are where the questions are being pulled from. Decide and defend is one that can be used as a early finisher type activity, is how I like to use it. And then the skills quiz is a grade that I like to give in class. You can assign this one on paper or digitally. If you do it digitally, usually I believe it tells the kids the scores immediately. The only problem is if they don't pass it, I'd have to play around with the settings to see can they retake it so that you can follow the district policy. And I hope this is somehow helpful to you and not just repetitive of what you already know. But I just wanted to review in case you've forgotten. Intervention, I do want to point out something that I found recently in the small group intervention tab. So there is a checkup paper, and this is a great activity that you could do and pull in a small group setting. So there's that paper. And then remember, you could also go to, so the intervention tab has a small group idea that you could use, or you could do that accessing prior knowledge in the foundation builder. So if you have a lower group and you know, okay, let's try to pre-teach this material, use those activities to lead into it, and then you could use that intervention checkup paper. And then finally, the acceleration. That is what I put on Canvas in the I'm ready for more section. I always link those. Something else I like to do is I'll go back to my home and to my scopes. So that is why I had the 5th grade math filter. I have a handful of students who are really advanced and they need higher level math. So I always go and I find the closest TEAC to the current one that we're teaching. We'll just pretend like I said add and subtract fractions. I know we did comparing fractions. And then I find one of their activities. So maybe I'll go into their Elaborate and pull their interactive practice for my students in the Ready for More section. So that's something I do. I've also come in here and printed out some of their like the Show What You Know or their foundation builder accessing prior knowledge for my advanced groups in small groups. So that's something I have done and have found helpful. Okay, so for Canvas, something I do, I'm going to show you what mine looks like. I don't know about you, but for me, it's always helpful to see how teachers implement things. So hopefully you're somewhat familiar with STEMscopes already. I'm going to show you what it looks like in my classroom. So here's my Canvas. We start out every day, that was a grad assignment, but we start out every day with our morning work. So the kids come in, they click on their morning work, it takes them to easel. Sorry, it's being a little bit slow. And they have their morning work paper on there that they can work on. This was a Teachers Pay Teachers resource that we're starting out to review. It's just very simple, straight to the point. As we go on through the year, I'm going to go to the guiding documents and pull those teaching through the STAR questions and do those STAR countdown and all of those STAR prep. But that's just so they're in the habit of doing their morning work. And then you'll see, so for the stations, I have all of these activities where they can just click on the different activities when they get to that station. And you'll see exit tickets we do on paper in class. So when they have met with me, I hand them their exit ticket on paper and they do it. And then the very next day, I usually sort them that night. I just do a really quick, like, got it, didn't. And usually I even do that in class, so I don't have to do so much work at home. So as I'm going through in class, if I see they got it, I'll give them a check mark. If they didn't, I'll put a dot on the top of their paper just so it's a note to me and they're not like, oh, I don't get it. I put a dot at the top, sort it, and then I have who I know that I need to pull in my small groups. Here's the Ready for More button that I was talking about, where I link all of the acceleration activities, both from 4th grade or like the interactive practice activities from the 5th grade or whatever grade level is next. So that's just a brief glimpse of what it looks like in my Canvas. I will say with that exit ticket, another tip that we have done, and I'll take you straight to it. So if you go to your Explore, that's where you're going to find all of your exit tickets. And you click on exit ticket. Notice I'm in the editable Google file right now. I apologize, it is going slow, probably because I have a million tabs open. Once you make the copy, I always rename it to match the TEK and the skill so that I have it all nice and neat for next year. Something that Miss Bandon and I have been doing is, I'm so sorry it's going slow. So we actually duplicate the slide. And then when we go to print, it's going a little slow, as you can see. We duplicate the slide, and then when we go to print, okay, I closed out some tabs, so hopefully it will be faster now. When you go to print, so sorry. It's gonna load. If it loads, then you would click pages and you would print 2 per page. And it's not going to do it right now, but you'd click 2 per page, and that would allow you to print it side by side so that you save paper and don't have as much going on. So I also want to show you one other thing I use in my classroom. This is something that I'm happy to share with you. It's just the easiest way to guide my day. I do a little Google Slides PowerPoint to walk the students through pretty much, and myself, through pretty much every portion of the day. So I start off with the good morning slide. They see this when they come in. They see their Addie picture of the day, because how can I not? And then it tells them what their success starter is, their morning work is, and then what to do if they finish early. We have the math station slide that I was showing you earlier, and this just tells you the rest of literally everything that we do in class. We had a guess who game today. We do the count with me. I make them stand up and then they punch to get some energy out, or kick, and we say all the numbers. Then we do it without the picture. I do the daily numeracy, whatever it may be that day. So we have the data science, we have this number line today, we have the guess who. And then I put the timers on. We do the different things. Now this was one that I did whole group, not in small groups, which is why it said the 45-minute timer. So nothing fancy. I do have a must do, may do, and a catch up list. So the must do, it just gives them all kinds of things. Normally it does not have 10 items. That was just an exception for today. And then it gives them the may do list. And I always list their catch up work. And I put the picture of it so that they see, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. I'm showing you that in case it's helpful to see how I implement some of these factors. I do want to point out that sometimes in STEMscopes, you'll be going along, and I know I talked with Miss Romo about this. Some of the lower grades have said that they are they're skipping the concrete step. So you're going straight to the abstract, and the kids are very confused. And something Mr. Gideon, I know, was really wanting to emphasize is that you have to give the kids what they need. So yes, we have this awesome curriculum. Yes, the district wants us to be using STEMscopes. Yes, we have the certain pieces that we need. And if we all implement it with fidelity, we will see change and we will see growth in their math scores. But also at the end of the day, you know your kids and you know what they need. So don't just power through all of these explores and the accessing prior knowledge and the hook and all of these different pieces just to get it done for getting it done sake. Instead, take a moment and see, okay, if they completely flop something, take a moment and see if you can fix it. So one example I had was my kids, we did a explore, we did the exit ticket, we did the show it you know. They still were really struggling. So I took a moment that next day to stop, and we made an anchor chart separate from STEMscopes using some of the questions similar to what they saw in STEMscopes. I printed out little pictures and we glued it in their journals. So at the end of the day, you have to do what is best for your kids. Let's see. One other thing, in case you have forgotten how to make an assignment in Canvas directly to STEMscopes, you click Assignments. If it'll go, I will show you, and it may not, so I may have to end it here. Click Assignments, you add an assignment. I'm going to label it Comparing Fractions. It's an external tool. So I click Find, you scroll down to STEMscopes LTI. And again, if you already know how to do this, then skip on ahead. Something I have found useful is if you already know the TEAC, I type in the TEAC 4.2c. Or it was actually G, the one I was working on, I think. Maybe. And I want the interactive practice, which I believe is in that Elaborate tab. So I'm going to scroll down to Elaborate. Don't forget to look. If you see the ESP, that means Spanish. If you see the S, that means student. The T means teacher, so you don't want to assign the T for teacher. You assign the interactive practice. It's going to ask you, it'll show you what it looks like. You'll say submit item. You do have to click select here. And once you do that, you'll see that link. You can come here, include sync to Skyward if you want it to, put your due dates, hit save and publish. If you just click save, then you'll have to go back later and publish it. So save and publish. That is a wrap. If you want to brainstorm on Canvas, on how Miss Vanden and I are doing the stations, or on anything else, I'm happy to help. I'm also happy to talk more in detail about how I sort kids into groups using those exit tickets, whatever y'all would like. I'm happy to at least let you pick my brain. I cannot say that I'm a perfect at it, but I'm definitely happy to collaborate. So that's it for now.